Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome if this is your first time here. So I have not been on this channel in a while. I have been absolutely swamped with personal readings. If you ordered a reading from me, make sure that you go and check your email because I did send out a batch of readings and I also did send out updates to those of you who are still waiting on your reading. So for this video, we are going to be tapping into your mother's higher self and channeling messages from her. And I got the idea to do this video because of the fact that today is the Cancer full moon. And in astrology, the sign of Cancer is associated with the mother. So I know that a lot of people during this full moon energy are going to be having maternal wounds be triggered. Like if you have a mother who you don't get along with, a mother who was like quite toxic or neglectful, like those wounds could be coming to the surface right now. Even if you're on good terms with your mother right now, like even if y'all are getting along fine, if there's things that she's done in the past, those wounds can start to come to the surface. So my intention with doing this reading is to hopefully give you some sort of comfort and some sort of clarity. Because like I've mentioned in the past, like in a lot of my videos, a maternal wound is a different type of pain. Like we can get hurt emotionally by people, but when it comes to our mother, like it goes beyond just an emotional wound and it cuts through into like a soul wound, into like a spiritual wound, you know? It heavily weighs on us. So sometimes it's helpful to be able to connect with your mother's higher self so that you can be able to see things from a higher perspective. And plus, you know, when you connect to someone's higher self, they are more compassionate, they're more aware versus their 3D self that we interact with, right? So you can look at a higher self as like a spirit guide, but it's more of a extension of you. So if you were your own spirit guide, that's what your higher self would be. So when you are connecting to your mother's spirit guide, it's like you're connecting to a higher vibrational part of her that is going to be, like I said, a bit more compassionate, is going to be able to address you in a way that, you know, brings you that comfort. So that's what I'm hoping to do. You know, if you were just never able to get that comfort from your mother, or you were just never able to talk to her about the things that she's done because of the fact that maybe she's lacking self-awareness or she lacks accountability, like I'm hoping that these messages will comfort you in a way that can be helpful for your healing. So let's go ahead and dive into this. So the first two cards out are the Two of Swords and the Wealthy Man card. So the Two of Swords card, immediately what I feel from this is that your mother may struggle with some sort of mental health condition. I'm feeling that very strongly with this Two of Swords, to the point where she could be quite, I don't want to say delusional, but kind of. It's like the energy of somebody who has a very warped perception of things and who tends to make the wrong choices based on that warped perception. And it looks like this person is also very defensive as well. I'm getting a defensive energy from this card where they've been hurt so much in the past that it has caused some sort of mental imbalance in them. And a part of that is them being defensive all the time and possibly having like a victim complex about them, where they'll do something wrong. And when they're confronted with what they do wrong, they genuinely feel like they are the victim. It's like, it's not they're playing the victim. They really do think that they're the victim, which can obviously be very hurtful, because obviously if your mother hurt you and then you go to her like, hey, this affected me, the fact that she would then turn it around and say, well, you're the one that's wrong, you're the one attacking me, like obviously that's going to be very traumatizing. So I'm not condoning it or giving excuses, but remember, we're tapped into her higher self, so we're just giving like explanations, because sometimes the explanation behind it, you know, can help us feel a little bit better, you know, when we can understand without excusing, right? So yeah, I'm seeing that there it seems to be an emotional imbalance with the Two of Swords being here. I'm really like keying in on another person. Like there's another person that's present in your mother's energy. It's someone who has harmed her very badly, caused a very deep emotional wound for her that she never recovered from. I feel like she has been hurt by a lot of people, but there's one relationship particularly that I feel has hurt her the absolute worst. Let me pull one more. Yeah, the thoughts card in reverse. So this is something that she doesn't like to think about. And it's something that she consciously doesn't even understand that it's hurting her. Like she doesn't understand the impact of what this relationship has done to her. And I mean, that makes sense because a lot of our mothers, like in their generation, they didn't really do like shadow work, deep diving the way that we do in our generation, right? Like we are the generation that started diving more into that type of inner work. They didn't do that. They just kind of suppressed everything and just kept it moving and not really understanding how much things affected her, right? So that's what I'm seeing is that she doesn't think about it, or she doesn't consciously think about it. She thinks that she's over it, but it has deeply impacted her. It deeply impacted her mental health, and it deeply impacts the way that she has treated you and treated other people as well. And again, not an excuse, but an explanation. So with the wealthy man card being here as well, I do feel a bit of narcissism from this wealthy man card. So your mother could have like a lot of narcissistic traits. But I also feel like with this wealthy man card, your mother feels more comfortable in her masculine energy. So her feminine energy is a bit disconnected. So I feel like that part of her, like that feminine part of her, like the part that's compassionate, emotional, vulnerable, like that part of her seems to be very shut down. And she feels more comfortable being in masculine energy where she's more logical, more analytical, or at least she thinks she's being that way. Because I feel like when she gets triggered or when she's upset, she actually is the opposite of logical, you know, because like I said, if she hurt you and you went up to her and said, "Hey, you hurt me," if she was that logical, she would be able to kind of see like, okay, I see how I hurt you, right? But she falls into the victim complex of like, no, you're the one, it's your fault, or she blames other people. So that's not her being logical. So it's, I hope I'm not confusing you here. It's like she feels like better when she's not being compassionate, when she's not in a vulnerable state, when she's being more like logical in her masculine energy. But then when she gets triggered, she becomes very irrational and very illogical. So it's just, it's not, she's very imbalanced. Let's put it that way. She's very imbalanced. Like she's either too much in her masculine energy, meaning she's just completely emotionally unavailable, selfish, logical, like overly logical, overly analytical, not using her heart. That's how she consciously is. But then when she gets triggered, it's like she falls too much into her feminine energy, where it's like the lashing out, or like the victim blaming, or the victim complex. Like it's a very imbalanced sort of energy. But if you were to ask her how she sees herself, she views herself as like this wealthy man card. She views herself as someone who's very like logical, who like has everything under control, and things of that sort. But that's not really the case. If we were to look at the way that she behaves when she's triggered. I'm going to pull one more. And again, I do get like narcissism from this card. I do. I see it as like her creating a certain persona in order to survive whatever, you know, terrible experiences she had in the past. And that's how narcissists are born. You know, that's how they are, not born as in like they come out the womb like that. I mean, that's how they become narcissists. They undergo some sort of like intense trauma. And so they create like this fake persona to protect the vulnerable parts of themselves. And that fake persona is the highly narcissistic part of them. So that's kind of what I'm seeing. Like, so your mother could be narcissistic due to past trauma. I want to pull one more. I feel like your mother's higher self wants you to know, because this is coming through, your mother's higher self really wants you to know that there's nothing that you could have done differently to make her treat you differently. Okay, my guides are showing me the Disney movie Beauty and the Beast, where, you know, Belle comes and falls in love with the Beast, or the Beast falls in love with Belle, and then, you know, he changes into a prince. And for some of you, this could be an indicator that, you know, you could be someone who was raised on Disney movies, like you watch Disney movies a lot, and it somewhat programmed into your mind that you have the ability to change people with the power of love. And so for a long time, you could have been trying to change your mother with the power of love, or you could have been trying, like fighting to get her approval or hoping that she would change. And her higher self is saying that, you know, you did your best in that aspect, but you shouldn't have had to ever fight for your mother's love. That's something that should have been granted to you. That's something that is your birthright, to have the love of your mother. So you should never have to work for it. And it's wrong that you were put through having to fight for her love, or having to, you know, work for her love. And in the end, I'm seeing that a lot of you just turned out to be extremely disappointed. Because even if you were doing everything right, even if you were the best kid ever, that still would not have stopped her from being who she is, because she has her own problems, you know? So that's what I'm seeing. That there's nothing that you could have really done to change her. I do feel like one of the motivating factors behind why your mother even had kids was love, like wanting to be loved, but not really knowing how to give it. You know what's running through my head right now? There's an anime called Nana, and one of the characters says, you know, back then I wanted so badly to be loved, but I didn't know how to love anyone, you know? So it's like this realization that I want to receive it, but I don't know how to give it. And I feel like that's what is I'm picking up for your mother. It's like she wanted to have kids almost to receive unconditional love, not understanding that that's not the reason to have kids. You're supposed to be having kids so that you can give them unconditional love. You don't birth a child with the expectation that they're supposed to give you all their love. You see what I'm saying? And I feel like your mother's higher self wants you to know that, like, she went into motherhood the wrong way anyway. Like, she went into motherhood. I don't want to say I'm going to say the wrong way. I was going to say I don't want to say the wrong way because it sounds judgy, but no, it is the wrong way. It is. We're not even going to sugarcoat things in this reading. It is the wrong way. She went in the wrong way thinking that you were supposed to give her all your love, and she didn't understand that she has so many emotional blockages where she was supposed to be giving you the love. So that's what I'm seeing. The next two cards out. Oh, I forgot to mention in the beginning of the reading that I will be doing an extended video for this as well. So if this resonates with you and you want more detailed, in-depth messages, the extended will be in the description box down below, as always. And for those of you who are new here, basically the way the extended videos work is that when I'm doing these videos on YouTube, it's like a very it's very general messages because so many people watch these YouTube videos. But if you want more specific messages, like with specific details, the extended video will be beneficial for you because less people watch the extended video. So I'm able to tap more in detail into the energy, if that makes sense. So the extended video will be in the description box if you are interested, or if you want more in-depth messages. Now, back to the reading. So we have the next two cards here. We have the Two of Wands and we have the Despair card. So with the Two of Wands being here, this is a lot of conflict. I feel like this could literally be like your house being very dysfunctional, your house having a lot of conflict. Just not like the house doesn't seem peaceful to me. So your mother's higher self could be acknowledging that the dysfunctional home, it wasn't right that you had to be subjected to that. I feel like there is some regrets as well. It's like regrets that they didn't make your home your safe haven, that they didn't make your home peaceful. I do feel like this also is saying that your home was a direct reflection of what was going on in your mother's world. And that makes sense, right? Like, if your mother is a chaotic person within, how would she ever be able to create a peaceful home? So I'm seeing like chaos within your mother manifesting as chaos in your home. That's what I'm seeing here. And I feel like it caused you to always be like in fight or flight mode, or it just caused you a lot of anxiety as well. It caused you to try to build family elsewhere, is what I'm seeing with the Five of Wands. Like, if you gravitated towards certain relationships or certain friendships that maybe didn't work out, but you like tried to hold on to them very strongly, I feel like that was a direct result of trying to build a home because of the way that, your mother has treated you. With the Despair card being here in the reverse, yeah, I'm seeing here that this is you trying to build happiness elsewhere. Let me pull one more. And it's interesting because what I'm seeing is that this is something that your mother experienced as well. I'm seeing here that at some point in her life, she tried to build happiness elsewhere and ended up getting very, very hurt instead. It's weird. It's kind of like I want to say like a generational pattern or generational cycle where it's like the home is chaotic. You leave the home to try to make your own family, but then you end up in these toxic cycles, and everyone kind of reacts to the toxic cycles differently. I feel like for your mother, the way that she reacted to the toxic cycles or being hurt by the toxic cycles is that she just became very abusive and she became very toxic herself, which again, I'm not saying it's an excuse, it's an explanation. But with you, I feel like because of the time period in which you were born, well, not even just the time period which you were born, but just you, like the way that your mind operates, like you went to go seek out answers. So like, for example, you're on like a tarot reading right now. You could possibly also watch a lot of psychology videos about like, abusive mothers and stuff like that. Like you went on a healing journey. She kind of succumbed to like the darkness of what she had experienced in these toxic cycles and just became a very toxic person. And I feel like you are like trying to work overtime to not allow that to happen to you. So it's like a repeating cycle that's definitely here, but it's clear that you're going to be the one to break that cycle. And I am hearing, I'm proud of you. I feel like your mother's higher self is taking pride in the fact that you are able to that you are going to be the one to break this cycle, is what I'm seeing. I do feel like your mother also struggled with some sort of, well, not some sort of depression. Like I'm seeing depression here. And it's interesting because I was just watching a video not too long ago where someone was saying that depression is a luxury. And what they mean is that there are certain people who, no matter how depressed they are, they still have to get up and work and take care of themselves and take care of their kids. They don't have the luxury of just staying in bed and being depressed. And I feel like your mother, that applies to her, that she has some sort of that she dealt with depression. I don't know why I keep hearing some sort of depression. What does that mean? Is that like a specific type of depression? I just keep hearing some sort of depression. Not sure what that means, but she didn't really have the luxury of addressing her depression. She had to just get up and keep on going. And that caused her mental health to deteriorate even more. That caused her to become even more toxic. I think your mother's higher self definitely sees you as a very honorable person, a very noble person, someone who, I'm seeing like you should be proud of who you are, because it's like your mother's higher self is saying she thought that she was an honorable person. She thought like her ability to get up, work through her depression, and just like continue to provide, like that made her like a superhuman, like that made her like an honorable person. But she looks at you and how emotional you are and how kind and compassionate you are, and she sees that that's noble. That's what nobility is. Like, yeah, it might be noble to be able to get up and work through hard times, but it's also extremely noble and it's extremely admirable that you're able to stay so kind and so compassionate and so loving through everything that you went through. And your mother's higher self definitely acknowledges that. I feel like that trait in you could be a bit triggering for her. And when I say her, I don't mean her higher self. I mean her in this 3D realm. That trait in you can be a bit triggering because that's a part of herself that she lost. And when she sees it in you, it's like a reminder that she lost it. So the next two cards out are the Queen of Cups, and we also have the Message of Concern card. So the Queen of Cups in reverse, I mean, that card is like when you're pulling cards about a mother, and the Queen of Cups in reverse is like the worst card, one of the worst cards that can come out for sure. The Queen of Cups in reverse is someone who is just like extremely emotionally like repressed or just emotionally imbalanced, like not able to give love. Like I said before, like just not able to give it. I feel like one way that your mother expressed her love, though, is through almost like smothering a little bit, like being overly cautious or overly concerned. I feel like this is for this may not apply to all of you. I'm seeing like a mother coming through here that whatever you tried to do, she would always like say like the millions of things that could go wrong with it. And for you could have felt like she was purposely trying to discourage you and purposely trying to like stop you from flourishing. But I feel like For some of you, yeah, that was the case. I'm not gonna lie. I did hear, like, my guys just said no, that was the case for some. For some, yeah, it's like a case of like a mother trying to always speak ill things over your plans because it's like threatening for her for you to flourish. I feel like it's kind of triggering for some, like for some of you, your mother is very threatening by you flourishing or very threatened by you being successful because it reminds her a lot of her shortcomings. Just think about it this way. This is a woman who's extremely, extremely broken inside, heavily insecure, never got the correct help or treatment for those things inside of her. Now she has a child. In her mind, her child is going to be just someone whose job is to pour love into her consistently, unconditionally, nonstop. And then she realizes, no, like as you get older, that's not how that works. That you're your own person. You need love as well. You need to be poured into as well. And so you start to go out and do your own thing. You start to go seek out love elsewhere. You start to go and try to build a happy life for yourself elsewhere. And it's like a crushing blow to her because to her, like in her mind, you existed for the sole purpose of loving her. And you becoming successful and things like that, it's like a reminder that that's not the role that you came here to play. And she falls into that victim mentality. That's for some of you. For some of you, there's like a mother who is like a mother who every time you say you're going to do something, they tell you all the things that can go wrong because they genuinely think that's protecting you. Like they genuinely think like, if I can stop them from doing these things, then they won't get hurt. And they don't understand that they're limiting you. Like they're projecting their fears onto you. A lot of their fears that they're projecting would never even happen to you, honestly. Yeah, it would never happen to you. Like you could say, I want to move to another state for college. And they were like, oh, that sounds dangerous. You're going to get killed. Like, whole time, if you would have, went to that college, you would have had a great experience, made great friends, grew as a person. Like their fears are a manifestation of their own fears. Like they're projecting those fears onto you. And that kind of lets you know how many terrible things has happened to them in their life, that they operate from such a fearful place. It's one thing to be cautious, it's another thing to be just straight up fearful. And I feel like that's what I'm picking up. It's like fear. It's straight up fear and projecting it onto you, but they think that they're trying to protect you. Pull one more. The mature man card is here. Yeah, I feel like the mature man card is saying that in a sense, you have kind of, like your mother's higher self is saying that in a sense, you've surpassed your mother in wisdom or in, I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain this because I don't want to say like surpassed her like, oh, you just know everything and she knows nothing because, obviously we're all on our own path. So we all have different types of wisdom or we all have like different areas where we may be a bit more wise. But I feel like in certain aspects of life, you may be a bit more wise than your mother. Maybe in like the emotional aspect of life, like your emotional intelligence could be a bit higher than hers, is what I'm seeing. And that can be sometimes that can be a bit confusing for you for anybody, like when you start to surpass your parents in emotional intelligence. So you kind of know that you can't go to them for things that are emotional. Like if you're going through something emotional, you kind of know that you can't go to them because you've surpassed them in that emotional intelligence to the point where they won't be able to console you. But if they were to come to you with something that hurt them emotionally, you would be able to console them. So sometimes it kind of feels like you maybe like switch roles, or like you sometimes fall into the mother role with your mother. And I can see how frustrating that can be. I'm gonna pull one more. The change card is here. Yeah, I feel like your mother's higher self is also talking about her inability to change, that she is someone who has control issues and she hates change. She hates things just not going the way she envisioned them to go. So if you, like, whenever you would try to step out and do things on your own, that would make her extremely uncomfortable. And that's another reason why she could project a lot of her fears onto you. She's someone who kind of hates change. And that's another reason why it could be difficult for you to talk to her about the things that she's done. She's very like it's almost like she can't take accountability. She doesn't want to really dig deep into the things that she has done, because it would have to, like, she would really have to shift her, like, the way that her mind has been working for years and years and years and years. She would have to experience like an ego death. She would experience like the dark night of the soul. Like, I'm sure most of you on this channel have experienced that, right? Like, you've experienced the dark night of the soul, where you go through like this drastic transformation process. You just fall into like just such a dark place during your healing journey. Yeah, she would have to experience that. And I feel like she does not want to experience that whatsoever. So she's very resistant to, shifting her mindset when it comes to the things that she's done. Which is unfortunate, because I feel like her higher self is saying that she can learn from you. She can really learn from you how to deal with this process of healing and transformation. That's what I'm seeing here. So we're going to go ahead and finish this on the extended video. I want to get a little bit more into this relationship that your mother had that really, was the main cause of her becoming so mentally and emotionally imbalanced. Also, I'll just post some messages for you, like any advice for you moving forward, and just anything else that comes through intuitively from your mother's higher self. So yeah, I hope that this was helpful, and the link to the extended will be in the description box, and I will see you guys over on the extended video.